CM 365, all about Carnatic music. If you look at the history of South India, it is really interesting to see how the temples have played a very, very important role in terms of nurturing the various fine arts, especially music. Now, in the 7th and 8th century, we see that the Bhakti movement blossomed in full measure in South India, and the great Cholas, who were devotees of Lord Shiva, they actually studded the land with temples and endowed them with land and wealth for the conduct of religious worship. Now, the historic big temple at Tanjore actually is a classic example, I would say, and truly symbolic of the cultural wealth of South India. The temples dominated Tanjore, and even today if you visit this place around Tanjore, you will see that there are so many beautiful temples that were built by all these kings. They are still there for us to enjoy, for us to really get immersed in that divinity. And thus what happened was Tanjore not only grew as a place of worship, but also became a cultural center with regular establishment of the Oduvars, Arayars, dancers, instrumentalists, musicians, sculptors and painters. Now in these temples we see that the singing of various devotional forms, what were they? Like the Tevaram, Tirupallande, Thiruvaimuri, Divya Prabandham, then the performance of Kuravanji Natakam and other music plays also, they found an integral part of daily worship in temples. And people who are aware of this know that there are specific times in which certain Tevarams or the Tirupallande have to be sung. So there are actually these rituals and the music have got a very, very strong connection. The Nayaks were great bhaktas of Lord Ranganatha and also the Rajagopala Swami of Mannargudi, while the Marathas were well known for their devotion to Lord Shiva, that is Lord Tyagaraja of Tiruvaru. Now the devotional forms which I mentioned earlier, all of them actually found a very, very prestigious position, I would say, in terms of the rituals that were performed in temples. So the music and the rituals actually became complementary to each other and they were integral, I would say, in terms of that. And apart from this, we see that the Mallari, the Rakti Melam, the Kautuvam, etc., they constituted the live music of the temple. And even today, if you go to these temples, you'll see that these are all sung or performed at specific hours of worship. Even the Mallari, you see that there are different kinds of Mallaris and there is a time frame or a place where they have to be actually performed. So this is something which gives us a clear indication of how music has played a very, very important role in temples, or rather I would say the temples were instrumental in terms of the music being codified to such a great extent. Then the Navasandhi and Panchamurti Kautuvam, which are sacred dance items, these were performed during the Brahmotsavam. The Mallari has a unique structure and significance. These are not the kind of forms that we talk about like the Kriti or the Varnam or Tillana. They have come to exist as a very, very independent form and they have derived a unique structure also. And they are played to mark different stages of worship in the temple. And it is said that Sri Ramaswamy Dikshadhar actually was instrumental in terms of systematizing these Mallaris, which is now performed in the Thiruvarur temple. So thus we see that many temples as such, they have a very strong connection with music and dance. And in the temples, the music also found great expression. And that's why we also see that there are some musical forms which have evolved exclusively on the shadow of these temples. While we have many art forms which we have been discussing about in some of our episodes, these kind of devotional forms and these kind of unique forms like the Mallari and other things evolved because of the temples giving so much of place and importance to this kind of music. Thus, we could say that music found the highest expression in the sanctums of temple and grew and blossomed in full measure.
CM 365, all about Carnatic music.